That was the issue. We would
So you'd take an order in of a bundle. It would have to deduct from all the other bundles and then push up those updates.
Yes.
And that round trip time was...
And for Qualtry, one product could be across, like, no joke, hundreds of bundles. At least 15 minutes, sometimes more. That's what it... Because we were having issues with selling through it and selling out. And we were constantly having to, like, oh, my God. All right, everybody. Welcome to OPS Unfiltered. Today we have a special episode. I'm joined by our very own CTO and our head of implementation. This is Josh and Brendon. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here. It's good to be here.
Today we have a super special episode. We're going to go through... So at Luminous, we pride ourselves in being very curious about the market of supply chain tools. We've kind of ran into... Well, I want to say we ran into it all, but I mean, honestly, it's so vast. There's no way anybody has ran into everything. But we have ran into a lot of different systems, and we feel like we can bring a really valuable conversation to any operator who's looking to implement a system. So I think to set the stage, the first topic of discussion is when is a brand actually looking for an inventory tool like SKU Vault, like Odoo, like NetSuite, like Linworks, all of these tools that we're going to talk about. What have we seen that triggers a brand to start looking for a tool like that?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest triggers is once a brand starts experiencing some sort of traction with wholesale. That's one of the clear-cut examples of like, hey, I'm managing my inventory in a Google Sheet. It's so hard to track allocated inventory. It's so hard to manage all these outstanding invoices, all these back orders. So I'd say that's one of like the clear times when a brand becomes more complicated, and they typically need some sort of backend system that's stronger than just an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet.
Well, we've seen that. I think let's call it specific use cases. Like, so Kaylani is one of our clients. They're an e-commerce company. Between like we'll give ranges, like between $3 and $10 million a year. They sold strictly direct to consumer, also wholesale on the side. But like Josh said, specifically wholesale volume. Like when your volume of sales and wholesale goes up, all of a sudden you need a system. So Kaylani, there's a lot of brands like that. If you're just, they had a 3PL, they sold on Shopify, and they sold wholesale. Honestly, like till $2 million, $3 million in revenue, just a couple wholesale invoices. They didn't need anything. Like they used Google Sheets and ShipStation. That was it. But it was once that volume got to a certain point where it's like, wow, we actually we're replenishing to Amazon a couple times a month. We are strategically purchasing a couple times a month. And there's actual stakes for like a big wholesale order, or us not being able to get our 5 invoices to the 3PL or the sales reps to the 3PL. I think that's...
Who do you think the person is at the company who's kind of prompts the search for a system? Is it the accountant, or is it the owner, or like what triggers that?
I think there's been a couple scenarios. So the decision makers that we've seen it's a head of ops, guy or girl, the founder.
Do it all ops person.
Yeah,
typically like customer service, noticing they're in the daily grind of the business where they're noticing all those issues. Where it's
especially if brands who outsource to a 3PL, there's always that guy or girl that's doing everything, and they're normally the decision maker, and they're normally like raising the red flag, like, hey, I need something. I would say that's if a brand has a 3PL. There's a do-it-all ops guy or girl. If they don't use 3PL, then it's normally the COO/warehouse manager, or instead of COO, you could call him director of ops. It's like it's the same idea of like this do-it-everything ops person, but they're more focused on the warehouse.
And are they getting a system because they're overselling a bunch, or just the owner's hounding them because inventory is not accurate, or is it inventory valuation's too hard to figure out?
So, and the third one would be accountant. Like an accountant is raising the flag like, hey guys,
Typically
literally can't-
outsourced at this point.
fractional bookkeeper or fractional CFO, they're like, hey guys, it's actually too hard to close the books. Like the downstream data that I'm getting is worthless, and I'm having to manually do everything.
Make my life easier, so implement a system.
Yeah. And then sometimes you get a founder. The founder is the one saying like, hey, our ops is a mess. Like I can't pull a report of. I think an aha moment for like a lot of the founders is if you're a company that sells a bunch of kits or bundles or subscriptions, when you sell across like a couple different channels, if you can't go into your system and search for a specific timestamp or like a time frame and see how many units did I move, what was the revenue attributed to that, then you probably need a system.
Well, then you're dealing with like subscriptions. Like before implementing a system, you're going to have to pull a report from FBA, from Etsy, from if you're doing any sort of EDI, you're going to have to dig through documentation there, and then you have to compile some sort of forecast. And I think it could take you a day, 2 days to do that. Where I think the operator then goes to the owner where it's like, hey, like forecasting is an absolute chore. Like I don't even know if I can trust our inventory numbers. I don't see any of the sales data, so we need to make a change.
I would say it's the tasks that require referencing a bunch of data sets where when there's not a lot of volume. So for example, forecasting, like you said, how many units should I purchase for Q4? When you're young, it's like you have 5 SKUs and you have 2 channels. So you just go to Shopify, export, run a couple formulas like, I'll purchase 2,000. But once it gets to the point where it's like you have 6 channels and you have wholesale and like you have a bunch of customers like, okay, how much are they going to order? And you don't know your inventory levels and you have 2 incoming POs. It's like once it becomes so overwhelming where it's like, okay, like we were surviving on Google Sheets and ShipStation, but we need something. It's like taking too long to get a freaking forecast.
And the data's not automated. So if you get started on it, say on a Monday, and you're pulling all these reports, this inventory data, and then something comes up and you have to revisit that, you got to export all those reports again because your data's it's out of date now. So now you have to go through and run those same reports because nothing's automated about what you're doing.
So up to this point, you export inventory out of FBA, you export inventory out of your 3PL, you export inventory out of your Excel spreadsheet in your garage, and then you have to get sales data from Shopify, Etsy, FBA.
And then that's if you do kits and bundles too, or if you purchase
subscriptions as well.
Planning for what's actually going to hit.
So and then you have to pair that with incoming POs where maybe you're doing POs on QuickBooks right now and you're like, oh, we actually already ordered these. And so you have an Excel spreadsheet of incoming POs, but that's also not being updated.
And then an added layer would be if you purchase raw material. So say I'm a brand that say I sell golf gear and I sell a bundle like this golf kit with a ball and a whatever in a golf glove and 2 other things.
Yeah.
If like say, okay, I have to take this bundle, forecast how much I'm going to sell, and then put that in like break it down by product, like those individual components. That's a totally different system too.
Well, another example too, like going back to the wholesale piece getting complicated, you start working with bigger retailers like Scheels, Target. They will give you a forecast for the next 6 months or for the next year. So like, how are you taking into account that allocated inventory? Like we were doing forecasting with a client a couple months ago during Q4. That was like, one, we have to keep track of the seasonality of all these other channels. But then we also had a big wholesale account come in and say, hey, I need 600 units of all these different SKUs by January 1st. And if we wouldn't have had a system like Luminous, we would have been all over the place. Like pulling from 20 different places, it would have been a freaking chore.
So to put a bow on this real fast, we talk a lot about complexity markers. These complexity markers are what creates an urgency to implement a system. I would say wholesale, like getting a certain volume of wholesale. You brought up a big box retail account, so needing like this need for EDI. So if all of a sudden I start selling to Scheels with bigger volume, or Cabela's, or Bass Pro, or Target, or Walmart, that causes complexity. Subscription, I start a subscription model, or that really starts scaling. I would say just getting to, if you're already selling on Shopify and Amazon, maybe you add on 2 more channels. Like something is going up in volume and it's causing complexity. Or I decide I want to save money by purchasing raw materials and having a co-packer manufacture it. There's a lot of times you make those decisions, and those types of decisions are what lead people to implement a system, or at least they make those decisions with their same tech stack, like Google Sheets and ShipStation, and then they find out later, like, whoa, this is like way too manual.
Yeah.
So, well, with all that being said, I wanted to dive in today. I want to give everybody, any of these operators or the accountant or the founder who are looking for a new piece of tech, I wanted to just put our experience out there, our experience of other systems. We are in no way, like, for example, when we talk about SKU Vault, I'm not an expert in SKU Vault, meaning like I don't know every square inch of it. I've implemented that system. I've used it significantly, but there's always parts of systems that we don't know. So, if we misspeak on something, forgive us. We're just going to give you guys our raw experience of these systems, what worked, what didn't, who it's a good fit for. This is just our opinion, and hopefully it helps in some way. Okay, so let's start with so I have this in different buckets. So first I call it the SMB Backend suite. So it's just like, it's really, really cheap inventory and backend tools for e-commerce companies. Then I have mid-market systems. So it's like just a step up in complexity and functionality. And then we'll dive a little bit into enterprise. So yeah, let's start with the SMB backend. Let's start with QuickBooks Commerce, formerly TradeGecko. So we've run into this with a couple of our customers have had this. So let's start out with the customers that we've had that we ran into that have been using QuickBooks Commerce, and let's go through a couple things. Number one, let's rate the UI. Why did these customers use them, or why would anybody use them?
Is TradeGecko the one we've ran into a bunch overseas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people overseas that use them.
They have good. We've always heard like B2B functionality has been pretty good with like TradeGecko, but it's changed. Like the transition to QuickBooks Commerce, they've lost.
When did the acquisition happen?
Let me see.
Let's look it up. But we have heard from a couple people that they loved like TradeGecko's B2B, but then something happened with the acquisition where
2012.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been for a while.
It's been a minute then.
Yeah, see, all of those
Something's happened recently.
All of those acquisitions and
it must be
a lot of
recent.
these tools that we're about to bring up, that from like 2008 to 2015, that was like the golden era for like rebuilding NetSuite in the cloud.
Yeah.
Like there's so many companies that came out of the woodwork. But okay, so TradeGecko, what do we rate its UI? I think the UI for QuickBooks and QuickBooks Commerce is actually excellent. Like it's just clean.
Pretty good.
Really have much of a complaint. I would rate it as like I'm in it and it looks like I'm in a 2020 software. Looks good. It's not as clunky.
You don't need a PhD to navigate QuickBooks Commerce.
Yeah,
It's fairly straightforward.
I've never seen it before, to be honest.
really.
No.
It's nice. It looks very similar to QuickBooks.
All right.
Okay, so why would somebody use them? I'll start there. Why would somebody use QuickBooks Commerce? Well, because it's cheap. Like I think they start around like $50 per user.
Yeah.
And they have tons of functionality. So that's why somebody would use them. If you find yourself in a small business that has tons of operational complexity, like I sell wholesale, I have to do some assembly orders in my garage. When you have that broad functionality at an early age and you need a system that can do a lot, that's why people use it.
Are they using QuickBooks Commerce for the accounting? And this just makes it easier to keep their books in line? Or is QuickBooks Commerce separate from QuickBooks?
It's separate.
Okay.
It's separate. But But it works together though.
Yeah, so if they're already on QuickBooks, that would be another reason. Like, oh, let's just go ahead and use.
Just be in the
Let's just stay in the ecosystem.
Is it integration seamless where it shares
No.
inventory? Oh, it's not. It's two separate
not.
systems.
I mean, a lot of the functionality is one and the same. It's like under one roof, but
Doesn't talk together.
Not everything. Like, and then there's even like QuickBooks Desktop. The QuickBooks ecosystem, it's super confusing
Very
because not all of it doesn't all seamlessly blend together.
Is it more seamless than like Deer to QuickBooks, or is it the same?
I'm not sure. I don't know. So, okay, what does QuickBooks Commerce do well? I think they have a broad array of features that are super cheap, and if you're an operator that's young, can figure it out, you'll probably scale to a certain point and then churn off of them. So where have we seen breakdowns with QuickBooks Commerce? I think number one, we've had a couple clients now that come to us because they stop servicing integrations. So basically, as a modern e-commerce company, when you start scaling your wholesale, if you pass basic writing of an invoice, when you start getting into EDI, when you start
Probably multi-warehouse inventory as well.
Yes, so. We've had somebody come on specifically just for the reason they stopped servicing their WooCommerce. Basically, you can't push inventory to two separate WooCommerce stores. It's like little things like that, little missing functionalities that a modern e-commerce company will run into all the time. Like, oh, you can't have two Shopify integrations. Well, a lot of people have two Shopify stores.
I think a key thing to note for them, and especially anyone that got acquired around that time, like they were acquired long enough ago and they're still working as a company, but the innovation happens while the original founders are there. As soon as they're acquired and kind of shipped off to Intuit, and in this respect, and the innovation stops, and it's just more of kind of a maintenance phase. And so I think you saw a lot of great things come out of TradeGecko, and everybody loved TradeGecko. Never heard anything bad about them.
And that's why QuickBooks acquired them.
Exactly. But as soon as acquisition happens and all of the founders leave, you're left with just kind of the shell of a corporation, and it just continues working as is.
And for example, like a good example is it's now so common for a company to have two Shopify stores or two WooCommerce stores. Like they'll use one for wholesale, one for this, and so like these new things that e-commerce companies are doing all the time. Or for example, just how usable is your system if you have a 3PL? Things like ever since 2012.
It's all the trends of the last 4 to 6 years where we're seeing lots of people using 3PLs. We're seeing lots of people where I store their product in multiple warehouses. All these recent trends weren't something that was built into TradeGecko, and QuickBooks Commerce isn't going to be able to catch up.
Multi-warehouse, so like the rise of FBA, being able like a quick replenishment flow for that. Forecasting for a brand that has FBA, your own warehouse, a 3PL, and wholesale. Like
it's become more integration heavy. So if you're not able to integrate seamlessly with an OMS and 3PL's WMS, and also like to your point, sales channels, kind of you're losing out on customers.
Okay, so what would you rate QuickBooks Commerce scale from 1 to 10?
I don't know enough to give a rating. I have to skip.
I'd give it a 6.
I was gonna say 6 or 7
for the
what I've
price.
heard.
Here's bottom line: if you're a brand that's complicated, doing from 100,000 to about $3 million a year, great system. You'll have to jerry rig it, and as you start growing and get more volume, it won't work for you. But if you fall in that,
it's a decent
range,
starting point.
Good. It's really good. Okay, all right. Next one, let's do Zoho inventory. Who here has interacted with Zoho inventory? I have.
You probably know more than myself.
I don't know. I just know it's kind of Zoho's more pick your module, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually remind me a lot of Odoo.
I
don't know if people have drawn parallels like that before, but they're so like Zoho's very modular. I think they're most known for their CRM, but they have inventory, they have accounting, they kind of have everything, and it's for the down market companies that don't need support and implementation. And you have Zoho specific developers who can just jerry rig it to work. So very similar to like the problems of Odoo. I would say Zoho it's really modular. It feels clunky for a small company because there's very rigid rule sets, but you can pay a developer to kind of morph it to your needs.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'm more familiar with Odoo, but it's the same idea of it's more of a very generic software. I think where it falls apart is it's not built for Excel is a very generic product. NetSuite's very generic. And when you have these generic products, they tend not to work really well for your specific use case. It works okay. And so when you compare it to a system that's built for an e-commerce company, it's just going to be easier to implement, easier to use, built around your specific use cases.
And I would say who is Zoho good for? Well, Zoho is most known for their CRM. So what I would say is if you're a small wholesale company who's on Zoho CRM and their accounting, you'd probably use Zoho's inventory tool. It can do most everything you need it to do. It's going to be really rigid, and you're going to reach a certain point where either you're going to have to churn off of it and go to a totally different. That's the risk. When you churn off of Zoho, like you're adopting a totally different ecosystem. So
yeah, because you could even be on Zoho website, Zoho email, Zoho. And Zoho has everything.
It has everything, and it's and that for better or worse. Like it doesn't do everything the best. I would say especially for modern e-commerce. What do I mean by that? Like, well, a brand that sells on Shopify and WooCommerce, and they do a little bit of wholesale. So user interface, I would give Zoho. I'd give them a solid 8 out of 10. It's pretty good, and their mobile view is actually really good. It's really well developed. Why would somebody use them? I would say if you're a wholesale brand in the Zoho ecosystem between 100K and 3 million, similar to QuickBooks Commerce, super good tool, really cheap. Not gonna onboard you. Like you'll get you'll be able to call into their call center or email them, get a support ticket going, and they'll just refer you to an FAQ. So if you're somebody who needs implementation, I wouldn't go with Zoho. So where people see breakdowns, I think, like Brendon said, in the rigidity of the system, in when you need help with implementation, some of the things that we've already said before. Now, what would we rate Zoho out of 10? Josh?
Probably 5 or 6 from my point of view.
I think it depends.
It depends what kind of company.
If you're a $100,000 company, it's probably exactly what you need. And if you're just not happy with Excel and you just want something a little bit more, it's probably an 8 out of 10 for you.
If I'm $1 million wholesale for specialty
and if
wholesale,
you're already in their ecosystem, it's a decent fit.
If I'm $1 million wholesale brand that just needs a cheap tool, 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's really good. If I'm like a $10 million multi-channel e-commerce company that sells direct to consumer and wholesale, and I sell to big box retail, then it's like a 4 out of 10.
Oh, right.
You'd want to get off quick so you could get into the different ecosystem.
Yeah.
Odds are, if you're using Zoho at that size, you're mostly in Excel, I bet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Our favorite, Sin 7.
Oh, Sin 7.
Sin
Okay.
7. Brendon has a lot of opinions on this.
Yeah, I think I know them incredibly well, and it's because I think they're very much in our ecosystem. They have a really decent tool, and they're specialty built for e-commerce. So I feel like this is the first one where it's built for kind of a bigger brand. They want to start doing things correctly, and it was built for that specific use case. Are we talking about Sin 7 or are we just talking about Deer?
So both. So Sin 7 Omni and Sin 7 Core.
Okay.
Which that was formerly Deer Systems.
So I think this kind of leads into the biggest downfall right now is, and here's some background for those that maybe want it, but you have Sin 7 and you have Deer Systems, both foreign. I think one's New Zealand, one's Swedish. It doesn't matter, but both foreign companies. Sin 7 purchased Deer and now has turned Deer into kind of the main system. So that's what they're pushing heavily really right now. I think in both scenarios...
Sin 7 Core.
Yeah, Sin 7 Core. I think in both scenarios, development's died. I don't know if they're rolling out anything new. It's mostly pushing kind of this freemium self-onboarding. And so, but the first roadblock you run into is when you want support, you have to look up Deer. All the support is Sin 7. And you're kind of in this like, when I'm looking at a support article, am I reading Sin 7 or am I reading Deer? Is this an old article or a new article? Like understanding what am I supposed to do is really confusing. And I think that's the most customers I see that are on that platform. That's one of their biggest complaints.
So first off, user interface for Sin 7, I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. I think just as far as modern UI go, especially Sin 7 Core.
Yeah, I think
it's the same. It's like same as QuickBooks Commerce. It's like clean, white, boring. I think it's boring.
It's 2010. It's stereotypical Web 2.0, 2010 UI. Like it looks like every other Bootstrap app that came out around that same time.
Yep.
And it was kind of that first generation SPA applications where they were rebuilding enterprise apps like NetSuite in the cloud. And that's very much what you have.
Yeah. So why would somebody use them? I think the use case for Sin 7 Omni or Sin 7 Core, it's the same thing. I'm a small brand running into inventory issues. I Google best inventory systems. They dominate mid-market PPC.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And their system is very much their marketing, their brand, it's meant to capture you as a self-onboarding customer. And they just fling, the way I describe it is like onboarding Sin 7 Core is like, okay, I need an inventory system. I just want something to like solve my problems. You go into Sin 7's funnel, you sign up for an account, and it's like they just fling you this massive system plunk right in front of you, and you're like, what is this thing? And you just try to figure it out. And maybe you implement like 10% of it, but it's like it's kind of working and it's cheap. That's how I would describe most of the experience of Sin 7 Core, Sin 7. Nobody loves it. And the people that do love it are really savvy operators that know how to like make it work for them.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be my point. It's kind of a system. Most of the people I've run into that are on a system like that are pretty well-versed operators. Like, it's usually not their first rodeo, like running an e-com brand. So they can either figure the system out, or maybe they've even used it before in a prior company. But that's what I ran into with them, is like you have to be pretty well-versed in e-com ops to like get it up and going.
Well, so I think the thing with Deer Systems is if I remember correctly, it was built by accountants. It was kind of this idea of, hey, let's take the ERP to the cloud. It can replace our QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm.
But what they failed at is the accountant isn't the operator. The accountant isn't the one fulfilling orders or receiving inventory. And so a lot of the processes and steps in there are like, they make a lot of sense. When you're an accountant and you're like going through the steps, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But then when you're the operator, it's just unnecessary work. And you're kind of stuck in this, I think, and what I see a lot of people do is they sign up for it. It's a free trial. They get in and then like, crap, I'm completely lost. And you hire out a consultant to come in and help set it up.
Why would that be, you think? Do you think like operators are more reactive than like an accountant? Where like, what do you think like the biggest, why it wouldn't work very well for an operator versus like someone with an accounting brain per se?
Look, I'll give an example. Doing a transfer order. If I do a transfer order, or if I'm receiving a PO, how we do it in Luminous, where we prioritize the operational flow, is you just want to be reactive, do it quick.
Whereas theirs is like you
gotta
fill out the steps.
Yeah, well, Deer is going to prioritize the stuff that you fill out in the form. It's going to require whatever steps needed for a clean, like the downstream accounting data.
So kind of like an extensive, for example, or I mean, we're kind of probably something similar in there. If you do like an inventory adjustment, like if you want to just change something quick, it gives you like 4 or 5 required fields to just like change inventory. So that could be, I mean, good example of like maybe too many steps for an operator, whereas an accountant focused person might want those specific things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so what would we rate our competitors, Sin 7 Core and Sin 7 Omni?
Brendon?
I think it can do everything you want. And if you're an expert in the system, you'd do really well.
I'd give it a 5 out of 10. and it's because I've ran into so many people on Sin 7, and the reason why it's 5 out of 10 is support. So it's great that you rebuilt NetSuite in the cloud, but if you can't actually implement your customers and get them to full usage,
So yeah, I give Sin 7, I think it's an 8, honestly. But that's purely from a tech point of view. I've never used it personally to run an e-commerce brand. And so I've never had to call the support team. And I'm more tech savvy, so I can like figure things out. And for me, if I were running my own company, if Luminous didn't exist, I think I would just use Sin 7 because it's cheap, it's easy to get in.
I tried it at Qualtry. So when I was CEO of Qualtry and we were implementing a system, I tried Sin 7 for free.
Really?
But the way it handled bundles and the ShipStation integration, it just like I needed somebody to show me how it worked. And back then, also the support articles weren't super great, at least on the use case that I was looking for. It was really difficult to get somebody on the phone. And
it's because they were purchased.
Well, it's their business model. Like I don't like their business model, which is it's like shove 1,000 people into a platform, churn 80% of them. 20% will stay.
Spend more money on PPC.
Yeah, I don't know. We're the complete opposite of that. Like,
yeah,
it's like no money on PPC. We don't say we're self onboarding, but we make sure you have a freaking great experience.
Yeah. So tech wise, pretty good, but like overall with implementation and onboarding, if you expect any sort of questions to be answered in a timely fashion, or like any sort of hand holding, if you need any help set up, you're like good luck.
So who's a good fit for Sin 7? I'd say savvy operators of medium-sized e-commerce businesses. So if you're not too complicated, like say you just use ShipStation, couple SKUs, you've built a Amazon, your own warehouse, like it's probably
and if you used a similar system in the past, definitely not a good fit though if you're going from like Google Sheets directly to it.
If you figure out, I think it probably helps if you have an accounting background, or at least you understand how accountants work on the back end. Yeah. I think you understand then how Sin 7 works.
Yeah. Okay. Next, let's talk about Odoo. Who here has had experience with Odoo?
I haven't ran into anybody using Odoo before.
I've ran into one person using it. I've heard a lot about it.
Really?
So Odoo, I think they were founded like in the early 2000s. They fundraised way back then. Their whole thing is like they're a
open source
buffet style ERP,
modular,
really cheap. You can just pick and choose the modules that you use. Open source, so you can build on top of it. Honestly, the only thing I can say is it's really cheap, and all of the reviews and the one review that I have heard about it is that it's, again, support. Support is very lacking. You have to pay for somebody to help onboard it, and you have to have a custom developer.
Yeah, that's
what
to
customize it. Otherwise, it will not work.
That's what's scary about the really general systems is you're gonna probably have to plan to get an in-house developer or pay someone to do custom work, which can get pricey quick.
I like their checkout screen. When you go pay for Odoo,
yeah,
they have the list of 200 modules, and you get to pick all.
I love their pricing.
I like their billboards too.
I want fulfillment, and I want inventory, and I want QuickBooks, and I want.
And then like cool fried wonton.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
So, what we can make this pretty quick since we don't have a lot of experience with it. What would I rate Odoo out of 10? I don't know. Probably like a 7 out of 10 if you have custom developer.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know if I could give a good rating.
I think it says a lot that we've never ran into somebody who is using Odoo, which means you're probably using Odoo and you're sub 100,000 in revenue.
So that's what I've always thought. I was like, isn't that so odd? We run into people all the time, prospects. That's the first question. What are you using? One prospect who's using Odoo.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that says it's probably incredibly hard to start using. It's probably disconnected enough where it's not super friendly. You're probably leaning more towards Zoho, which is a little better built out.
So that's a good point. I would rather use Zoho
Yeah.
It's a trusted ecosystem that's been built out over time. Really good CRM, and you'll be able to figure out the inventory tools. So
Yeah.
okay, let's move on to our mid-market systems. So number one, which we have actually a lot of experience with this one. This will be a good one. SKU Vault.
SKU Vault.
SKU Vault again.
Best
so,
friend.
Quick background. They were. We always talk about this 2008 to 2015 renaissance of like inventory tools. Where what if we rebuilt NetSuite in the cloud, and then everybody rebuilt NetSuite in the cloud? They were part of that. I think they quickly started. I think SKU Vault has a big chunk of mid-market e-commerce. And I think they were just one of the first to market that marketed their product effectively. But just for reference, SKU Vault pricing is anywhere from like $100 a month to like $3,000 a month. They serve mid-market. They're like a multi-channel inventory tool for e-commerce. We've ran into tons of clients with them. I've implemented SKU Vault. Let's rate the UI first. I'll rate the UI. Solid 4 out of 10. It's not like a Dynamics 365 UI, but
Well, I mean, we're talking SKU Vault is like a 2004 company. Like this was .com bubble bust company who's been around for 20 plus
I
years.
just remember navigating their SKU page, and then I was just trying to find inventory in a bin. It was like,
Well, and you have to think,
that was insane.
this was a company that was built before Amazon existed.
Oh,
that's true.
yeah, that explains it. That explains a couple of things I've ran into.
Yeah. Well, that SKU Vault breaks down with all of the modern problems of it. So, for example, when I implemented SKU Vault, the biggest issues I would say were with the user interface. Like it was just clunky to find my way around. But it was actually with bundles. So Qualtry, we were heavy in bundles and kits, and setting them up was just a absolute nightmare. And then the way it's inventory synced with kits, you will run into issues if you use SKU Vault, and you sell through a lot of bundles.
Is that just because they came out before? Shopify feels like the one that popularized bundles. And they came out before that was a big thing.
I'm not sure. I just know that our inventory sync was always incorrect because what is the time from a tech perspective? What is the time that it takes to sync to get the virtual stock of a kit or a bundle? That was the issue. We would
so you'd take an order in of a bundle. It would have to deduct from all the other bundles and then push up those updates.
Yes.
And that round trip time was.
And for Qualtry, one product could be across, like, no joke, hundreds of bundles. Hundreds.
And so how long was it taking for you guys?
At least 15 minutes, sometimes more. That's what because we were having issues with selling through it and selling out. And we were constantly having to like, oh my God, because we had thousands of SKUs pushing to different channels. And I remember we were having to jerry rig like all these buffers, and then like the buffer was too much, and then we'd have to go and change the buffers and turn them off. And then it was I just remember a nightmare, and like constantly on the phone with support, and they just didn't really know what to tell us. Then on top of, I would say the ShipStation integration. So we use ShipStation at the time. They don't sync up very well with OMSs. So something that Luminous does really well. First off, we can play with any order management system on the market. That's how we were architected. SKU Vault, it's so
Rigid.
It's really no. It's just your OMS is over here doing what it's doing, and then your inventory system is here. There's like no connect. Like I can't see what's going on in ShipStation if the label is generated, any of the data there. Whereas with Luminous, like we basically like mirrored ShipStation's sales order grid. And you can see, but we push like all of the data back to Luminous, even like address verifications, and it's just difficult to see.
So is it built more like you have fulfillment over here and you have our warehouse over here?
Yes.
We're sending the orders to fulfillment and then
it just happens. Like, and that was to the day, because what would fall apart for us is we were just constantly auditing inventory. I just didn't know what was, they had quantity logs, but like I could go back and see what depleted at what time. But because those tech pieces were so they weren't integrated very well, we could never like actually QC what was going on. Another issue with SKU Vault was data auditing. This is literally why I came up with Purgatory and Luminous. So when you have a lot of channels and you have a different SKU for all these different channels, SKU Vault did not have a good way to have an alternate SKU. And on top of that, if there's no barrier for the data coming in. So let's say I have like 7 different channels and I have thousands of orders coming in a day. It's really common for an order comes in and the SKU is not mapped to the inventory SKU or the SKU that you're using for your inventory items. With SKU Vault, you just like, it's just a shot in the dark. You're like closing your eyes for a month and then you open them at the end. You're like, okay, let's see how bad inventory is off. And then you're like, why is it off? What's going on? And I would have to manually audit data every single month. Like, okay, well, it's because this channel manager didn't add the SKU. Okay, we set up an SOP. Oh, well, this one is missed right here. On this, the integration didn't pull in that SKU. Okay, they can't do alternate SKUs for a bundle. Like all those things together. And it was just like, wow. So with SKU Vault, because of the data auditing, bundling, FBA fulfillment or replenishment flow, like all of the modern things that have popped up in the last, the integrations with an OMS, linking up with another 3PL, like all those things, it was really good. Like if it was 2010 and you had an e-commerce store on Shopify, you use ShipStation,
Solid.
like freaking awesome, solid. But nowadays, I would rate SKU Vault like a 4 out of 10. That's really harsh. Wow, that's pretty harsh.
I'd second that though, because I spent some time. We just took someone off, and I spent a little bit of time in SKU Vault, and it was tough to find things. Like even people on that team were like, "Oh, you'd have to ask the warehouse manager how to do that." Like it was very. A lot of people within the same company, like you had to go to a specific person to know how to do something, and it was very like not very well connected. So like they did a lot of lot tracking, and it was so difficult to like find. Just show me like a dashboard of my inventory across different lots. It was like you had to go and search the specific SKU. So data visibility, it was tough. That was my experience.
Okay, well, if we're going, our scales might be different. If we're going like one is, I have no idea why you would ever use this system. I would give it a 1.
Whoa!
Why would you use SKU Vault? In what scenario would you ever be like, yeah, let's do that?
Maybe
I don't know. There's so many better tools.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
just using ShipStation, or not ShipStation, just using Shopify to sell. And then your fulfillment is very, very straightforward.
Well, then why not just use Shopify?
Yeah, why not just use Shopify's?
You got me there. You got me.
I don't know.
Just use Shopify and an OMS.
Sorry,
or
well, actually,
something.
it doesn't even matter. SKU Vault was bought by Linworks, so
Yeah.
it's actually, and Linworks is a far superior tool.
So have they gone through a similar thing, do you know, with the other ones we've talked about? It seems like when people get acquired, their interest in customer support and onboarding, it goes away, basically. They don't care.
Eventually, I'm sure they're just going to merge. They're going to try to get all of the clients off of SKU Vault onto Linworks. I bet. I might be wrong.
And then probably same thing is like a Deer or a Sin7 where it's like, hey, we're just gonna pump money into PPC and we don't care about churn all that much.
That's for sure how SKU Vault was.
Yeah.
That was their model.
Yep.
Okay, next. Oh, well. Ooh, what time is it? 2:30. Holy crap.
Okay.
We might have to do a part 2. How much longer can we go, Abby?
We don't have anything else scheduled, so you're good.
Oh, really? Oh, sick.
Just divide up the podcast, I
baby.
guess.
Yes. Okay, so next, let's do this. We can make this really fast. Finale inventory. Does anybody have any experience with?
Yeah, I actually know quite a bit. I think it's a fine software. It's definitely like 2000s vibes. Even their app and everything is it's confusing to say the least. They have a lot of function. They're very specific to inventory though. They know where their specialty is, and outside of it, I don't think they go much. So as far as like a good example is their pick and pack fulfillment. It's actually fairly nice if you just want to do inventory in there and you just want to do fulfillment in there. But the app is like a 2010 app. Like it's kind of weird. There's like the configuration settings you have to like go into, and it's this long list of about 100 values. You have to go through the documentation to figure out what means what. But at least from my point, I've never used it, but from just a pure tech standpoint, I'm like, okay, it does the job well.
What about cogs? Like, how? I can't. I remember there was
I don't
something
even think
specifically wrong with the way Finale tracks cogs. I remember some of our accounting partners talking about that.
I'm not sure.
So I remember with, I might be wrong, but with Sin 7 Core was rigid. Like if you receive something after the books were closed or after like cogs was recognized at the cell, then you had to like unlock it and I think that what they were saying with Finale was it was super flexible. Like it would go back and backdate the cogs.
Oh yeah. I in my mind I can see
And there
the
was
UI and see how
I just
it
know that
works.
there was a debate among accountants, like which one's better, like the most boring debate of all time. What's better, Sin 7 Core or Finale on how they track cogs? But I don't know.
My latest interaction with them was very difficult to specify a SKU that's like a kit or like a virtual stock unit versus something that's more of like bill of materials assembly order kind of item. And then when this person reached out to the support, like, hey, help me set this up, it was kind of like good luck kind of thing. So their inventory was getting all out of whack with what's the difference between something that's just a kit versus something that like we actually need to go in and assemble before we sell.
That goes towards then that's where I said they're very specific to inventory. And if it goes into assembly orders or like manufacturing, no, they are purely here's my inventory, here's how I pick it from the warehouse. Here's my very specific flow that I go through.
So good option if you have like a very specific set of products that's kind of straightforward to fulfill and get out the door.
Yeah, if you don't want a system of record, or if you don't want to, it's not going to be like your reporting backend. It's not going to be your forecasting backend. It's going to be your warehouse management system. That's all it's going to do.
Yeah.
Okay, next I have Katana. Okay, so Katana is they call themselves an ERP. I would classify them as an ERP.
I think Katana is a beautiful system. It looks really cool. Some super neat flows related to manufacturing, and I like a lot of their concepts around manufacture to stock, manufacture to order, build to order. A lot of like these more niche things related to manufacturing. I really like their flows.
I remember finding Katana and researching in depth with you over the years. It made me realize that when you're sort of like a niche e-commerce merchant, kind of like Qualtry was, the company that I was at, it was like, oh man, I wish we would have used Katana. Like that would have been a great system for us. And that's what I would say. Anybody who does any type of manufacturing in-house,
I would 100% look at them and
go look at them, demo them.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have a really cool flow, like made to order, made to stock. Just how they do it is really cool.
Yeah, like their order, you'll see all your orders, kind of like a ship station, and it'll say, hey, you actually have to manufacture 15 of these. One button clicks, it creates the assembly order, pushes it off to your manufacturer.
Super cool.
Like a lot of really neat flow. I think it tends not to work a lot of times in like practice. Like I think we run into a lot of people that tried it and it's like, it didn't really work.
Yeah.
In theory, it all works great.
Yeah. So Katana's, I would say, first, I love their user interface. Especially, I love it when software color codes things to make it even more simple. And I feel like they do that really well in their flows. I would say Katana is an excellent system if you're medium-sized manufacturing e-commerce company. So if you buy raw materials, you manufacture them in house, and have fulfillment flow, then it's probably a great system, or it could be a great system for you.
Mm-hmm.
They've really thought out a lot of the flows that make a reactive e-commerce company like that really easy to operate.
Why don't they end up being a good? I feel like we've recommended them to a few people, and nobody's ever been able to implement them. Why does it fail?
So I think where it's failed before, because I've recommended it to a lot of people before, it fails because they do. Once you have the raw materials in the warehouse, and for example, you're a brand who's you're made to order, you're 100% made to order. So you sell products online, you purchase raw materials, you receive them. Katana nails the flow from receiving through shipment, but it was everything else. So it was like, man, we just couldn't get their forecasting or demand planning to actually work. Or the same culprits like wholesale. It was really difficult to allocate wholesale inventory to this, or like have it run through a separate flow. EDI. Yeah, a lot of the same culprits.
Interesting. So it's all they get the manufacturing, but everything else is kind of, you have to pick and choose what you want.
Yep. I'm trying to think.
What's their onboarding like? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I guess it's probably the same as everybody else's.
Kind of self onboarding.
Cost a couple $1,000s. You get an account manager that comes on the phone every once in a while, but you more or less have to figure it out. Okay. Next, let's do extensive. Josh, you just spent a lot of time in extensive. Also, some background or fast extensive. They acquired Skubana and 3PL Central. So probably what people are thinking of if we say extensive is probably Skubana.
Skubana, 3PL Central. First, I'd say it's a decent option for like medium-sized 3PLs that need to deal with like clients logging into some sort of portal, be able to see like order information, things like that. So for like 3PLs, I think pretty good option. What I've run into is that it doesn't speak very well to like an order management system in terms of just that data interchange is kind of non-existent. Like I've worked with a lot of clients that they do like a manual push of orders from like extensive, when I say extensive, Skubana to like a ship station. So notice a lot of that where the OMS and extensive are kind of siloed in two different places, which makes it difficult for fulfillment and even inventory status getting updated back and forth. So that'd be the biggest thing. And I've also ran into even just like something pretty simple. Like I've heard complaints of not being able to edit like a PO, for example, where it's not as reactive and extensive. A lot of it seems as if you do something, it's there for good. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of give and take on what you can edit and what you can't.
Yeah, and we've had some companies where the breakdown with extensive was, for example, if you're a subscription company that constantly would prefer to automatically merge or automatically split orders. So some logic there would be like, if I have a subscription order that's supposed to hit and I'm upsold something, like I buy this thing in addition to the order that's going to hit, okay, well, that's going to come down into extensive as two separate orders, and there's no logic where we can automatically merge those together or automatically split. Say, again, my subscription order is hitting and I'm out of stock of one of the products in that subscription bundle. Well, like what most people would want to do is just, okay, we'll automatically just split the one that's out of stock into a different order. So that's in a lot of instances like that where we literally have seen companies, because of Skubana's inability to handle certain use cases like that, people have been spending 10, sometimes 20 hours a week of manual splitting and merging and just play with your order data, which I would say that you can pretty confidently say that doesn't work.
Yeah. You can do better things with your time, for sure.
Yep. So what would we give extensive out of 10?
I'd give extensive probably a 5 or 6. I think for like inventory management purposes, like there's some decent functionality there, as well as like the fulfillment piece. But the way it talks with other systems isn't great. I'd also say that I don't think like the user interface is fantastic either. So like finding what you're looking for is kind of a chore as well. So it's not super clear cut on what actions you're supposed to take and all that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, we can go pretty fast on this one. Anybody heard of Dipasco?
Yes.
I've heard of
Yep.
it.
Yeah, I've ran into Dipasco a couple times. So Dipasco is really interesting. So apparently it's like this. They also have like a NetSuite-esque offering, similar to us, where they'll come in and it's like a full-scale implementation, and they'll also customize the system. So they too have a big, massive system, but what they do is in their implementations, you pay a premium, but you can basically customize the system to your operations, and they'll implement it, and it's going to be less expensive than NetSuite, but still very expensive. I've actually heard really good things about Dipasco. It's like a less well-known system. Again, you're still going to have to pay a fat premium, hundreds of thousands of dollars to customize it.
So it's not an ERP though. It's more of a WMS, right?
It's a WMS, yeah.
So it's like, I think we tend to see 3PLs using Dipasco more than a brand wouldn't use Dipasco probably.
Yeah, a brand probably wouldn't. And again, like with all of these tools, the functionality is normally lacking with a multi-channel e-commerce brand who does wholesale and does EDI. But yeah, like as a
brand, you probably run into Dipasco because there are 3PLs using it and they're like, hey, you have to use it.
So I would say Dipasco is a great fit for a 3PL or a fulfillment center that's medium sized, and they have a bunch of custom flows.
Pick and pack flows, fulfillment, complicated.
But it's more like on the complex side.
Yeah.
And like you want a custom system and you looked into that, but I would go with Dipasco. If you're looking to build a custom system, say like Legiwa or Vericore is not going to work for you, and you're looking down the route of a custom system, I would say go with Dipasco, or go at least get them quoted.
Yeah.
They can customize a lot of their modules to your needs. Okay, next is, I'm trying to save the best for last. So we're going to do, like the last two are going to be Fulfill.io and NetSuite. So save all of your energy for that. We just got to get through Fishbowl. So Fishbowl, Inventory Planner, and then we'll get to Fulfill and NetSuite. Okay. Local Utah company, Fishbowl.
So I don't honestly know much about Fishbowl. I've met a lot of people that have purchased Fishbowl. I've never met anybody who has implemented Fishbowl though.
So one of our clients, MF9.
Were they using Fishbowl?
Dude,
Or,
is MF, or is it not MF9?
well, we can bleep out names.
Yeah, we'll bleep out names. But they put it as like, we made a $60,000 donation to Fishbowl. Because they paid $60,000 for an implementation.
60
They
grand.
came on site like a couple times, trained,
Yeah.
and then just left them. It's like, hey, it's not working like you said it would. And they quoted them to go back on site. It was going to be another $40,000, and they're just like,
Holy crap.
it's your system isn't working. Like the training you did does not fit our operations. So Fishbowl, Josh and I have navigated this. Just Ingredients was on it, and we had to pull out data to we had to export data to implement our inventory tool. So it was really, really clunky. In fact, just a basic report of give me the inventory, the on-hand inventory numbers by bin and by product.
It was all over the place.
It was all over the place. And then we finally found the export after like just poking around for a long time. And then you export it, and the format is like I had to scrub it through ChatGPT
No way.
and to like the data entry of the Philippines, and it was still messed
It's like
up.
they knew. It's like they knew if you're doing that export, you were switching systems, so they're gonna make it as hard as possible
Oh
for
my
you
goodness.
to do that.
But I would say Fishbowl has a whole suite of products, and so they have their own accounting tool, they have their own inventory tool, inventory fulfillment, and they have production. So who would use Fishbowl? I would say like the people who I've seen using it effectively are the people who use its production or its manufacturing to its fullest capabilities. If you're just an e-commerce company that does light fulfillment, it's overkill.
Yeah.
And you're gonna make a $60,000 donation and have a horrible experience. Mark my words. I've only heard that experience.
Well, I think this is another 2001 company, like .com bubble burst and bought out by a PE firm.
Yep.
And it's just in maintenance mode. Maybe this podcast is a call out for anybody who actually uses Fishbowl. I'd be curious to
Yeah.
hear how things are actually. Anybody who's implemented Fishbowl and is actively using it.
Well, we see a common thread with all of these systems. Almost like 80% of them. What happens? So the founders are in it and they're building like a pretty cool tool. Like Skubana in those days, it was a really cool tool. SkuVault in those days was super cool. But they get bought out by some PE firm, roadmap stalls, and then people are like, "Oh man, this company sucks." It's so common.
Is that a sales pitch? At that point, is the only answer NetSuite then? Why take the risk on a company that's going to be bought out in 5 years?
See, I think that's
Yeah.
why people go to NetSuite,
Mm.
and I think that's why we hear that all the time. Is like, is this going to be bought out? I mean, at the beginning, I'd be like, "Of course not. Of course, Luminous isn't going to be bought out." But talking through all of this, it's like, oh, it's a legitimate concern.
Every competitor at this point is bought out by a PE firm and in maintenance mode.
See, and it's not even just the functionality of like the software itself; it's the integrations with other softwares that are being built. So like we've ran into Fishbowl not playing nicely
have to
with
stay
like
on your game.
ShipStation, right? So I
You have
mean,
to stay on your game.
like functionality of a system is one thing, but then if you are in maintenance mode and you aren't either deepening integrations or getting new ones, it's kind of like
Like fair.
we can't use
Fair.com,
you.
that-
Like
That's
we can't use
a
you.
great example. Like if you're TradeGecko or if you're QuickBooks Desktop or if like just these products that have already been acquired, Fishbowl, they probably don't have a fair integration.
Well, and
Like-
if their onboarding strategy is like, hey, good luck, like self onboard, where's the feedback? Like truthfully,
That's true.
where's the in the weeds
Let's be
feedback? on
feedback. You need a
something?
product team. To be fair, none of these companies have a product team. Probably.
Okay, so there you
Yeah.
go. There's two problems in one. So you're not getting feedback appropriately, and you don't really care that much. So there you go.
Okay, let's dive into this fulfill, and then we're gonna do a NetSuite. NetSuite's the last one. I want to spend some good time on that. Okay, so fulfill. Oh shit. Sorry. Fulfill.io. They're an interesting one. They are most similar to us, I would say. So Fulfill, honestly, they started out wholesale. They started out as like order management and fulfillment for wholesale businesses. And very, very similar to what's their name? Order Circle.
Mm.
And they came out around the same time as Order Circle. But they were able to expand and get a full ERP. So Fulfill, they're building their own ecosystem, super robust product, do a lot, starts at $2,000 a month, very similar pricing. I think the biggest difference is going to be that very similar to Sin7 Core, Sin7 Omni, they're a foreign company. So Fulfill was founded in India. I think Sin7 was founded in New Zealand. All these foreign companies, they're just not as in touch with American operations and what it takes to actually implement a company.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a totally different vibe. Those systems and the way you interact with customer service for Fulfill or Sin7 is not going to be anywhere near like a NetSuite or Luminous. I don't think any of you guys have had any experience with Fulfill.
Mm-mm.
We've ran into a couple companies on it.
The only feedback I've heard is, on the surface they look sleek and modern. When you go to their website, it's kind of impressive. And they're still building new things. And they still have a future, I believe. I don't think they've been bought out yet, right?
Nope.
And so still rolling out really cool things. I think it gets more complicated when you actually jump into the software. And they don't have an online like public knowledge base. It's really difficult to find information. So you're very much on your own. And if you've ever worked with a European company kind of trying to figure things out, it's difficult. Just time zones, they're not working overtime. They're 9 to 5. You're lucky to get them on email.
Yeah, then I would say the only companies that I've ran into on Fulfill, they're supplementing. They always churn to a bigger ERP. So it's supposed to be this robust tool. But every single person I've met on Fulfill.io is also using NetSuite or like some bigger ERP, which is weird because they also have their own financial suite.
So they use Fulfill.io for multi-warehouse inventory and forecasting typically.
Yep. Well, not even forecasting.
Not
They don't use it
forecasting.
for forecasting. It's Fulfill, NetSuite, and then some other tools.
It's interesting. I'd be curious to see too, like those companies specifically where they're doing their like demand planning and forecasting. Like, are they truly using one of those tools, or is it still kind of like
Google Sheets.
Google Sheets, the battle-tested Google Sheets to forecast?
Okay, so last one. Let's spend some good time on this one. Or just some good energy. All right, the bane of our existence, NetSuite. Implementing NetSuite would have killed my e-commerce company.
No, so I have a lot to say. One, I think coming into e-commerce in general, I was surprised to even find small brands using NetSuite. They've done a really good job at going down market. Because I would generally put NetSuite as like, it's Oracle, NetSuite, then you have JD Edwards, and you have all these kind of massive ERPs. And it makes you ask, like, why in the world are these $100 million brands using this massive enterprise software? And I think it says more to how they've been able to market themselves. When you go online, you view their e-commerce landing pages, it feels like, oh, these guys are built for me. And since they can handle the big guys, they'll be able to handle me no problem. But they miss the mark because, dude, even if you're a $100 million brand, you don't have 10,000 employees to run fulfillment and operations. Like, you have a few people that are trying to just figure things out. But
I'd say what people underestimate on a switch to NetSuite is it's a step away from the e-commerce ecosystem. So we've ran into a lot of companies who they're like $5 million, $10 million a year, not very big. They chose NetSuite. And while they might have gotten a quote at like $3,000, $3,500 a month, okay, this is a good investment for my business. We'll get the bottom tier implementation, like $50,000, $3,000 a month. That's actually not too bad. Well, the problem is like you just implement NetSuite, Suite Commerce. You might have to actually have a database manager to train people how to do it. You might have to pay somebody, $10,000 to train your employees. Suite Commerce. Now you have to, if you use Suite Commerce, for example, you have to pay an integrations company like $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 a year to make sure all of that data is falling into Klaviyo correctly, or into Shopify correctly, or into whatever tool you're using in the e-commerce ecosystem. So a lot of people underestimate, like, yeah, you're buying this tool that should work, but it's going to cost like whatever they quote you, just multiply that by 3, and that's how much it's actually going to cost you. And if you're willing to pay that price, then pay it. Okay. So if you get like a $50,000 quote, $3,000 a month, multiply that by 3 and ask yourself, okay, am I willing to pay $10,000 a month and, $150,000 to get this up and going? Because that's what it's going to be. And it might even be more.
And you have to look at it like NetSuite's a generic product. Their specialties are like retail and manufacturing, and e-commerce is like a subset of a subset that they focus on. And so you're just this small fish in a massive, just ocean of products they service. And so you have to to get it to work, you have to bring in somebody and they have to customize it for it have to customize it for you to get what you want. And it's not like at least with Sin 7, it's built for you. You know, it's built for you, your type of company. Or NetSuite's it's a massive ERP.
It's so interesting as we're talking about, as we just went through a list of all those competitors, as we're talking about NetSuite and big ERPs now, it makes like what Luminous is doing makes so much sense. And the fact that somebody would choose NetSuite shows that nobody has emerged as the trusted go-to system of record for e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's emerged. Like, say, Zoho, yeah, I'd kind of use them for this. QuickBooks Commerce, like, well, their roadmap's stalled, they're not updating this. Or Odoo, like, no, I just probably wouldn't use them. It's like super cheap. Even Fulfill, it's like, well, they're a foreign company. They don't really do this very well. It's so interesting. I think that's so fascinating that out of all those competitors that we just listed, like, who would you actually, if you had an e-commerce company today, multi-channel, wholesale, big box retail, say you're doing $10 million a year, who would you choose?
Assuming Luminous didn't exist.
Yeah, assuming Luminous didn't exist.
I think
I would
Sin 7.
I would probably try to figure out Sin 7
yeah.
and then be disappointed and pissed off perpetually until I implemented NetSuite.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about it. Nobody gets fired for choosing NetSuite. Like, I mean, they might, like, if you start paying tons of money and you go under. But like, I think people just see it as the safe choice. And so it's like, oh, like Oracle's a massive company, so we can trust them.
Yeah.
But then under the surface, like, I've ran into multiple cases where you're paying for integrations and then you're paying for a database manager. I've worked with a company in particular that no one knew how to run a report except for their database manager. And we were in the middle of implementation, and this database manager was going to be leaving weeks later. And so it was like, hey, anything you need from them, like, get it right away, because no one else knows how to get any of the other data. No one knows how to make changes to our website except for them. So it becomes a bottleneck. If only one person in your organization knows how to make changes or edit things, it becomes a bottleneck. So I told those guys that NetSuite is literally, it's a Maserati, but you have a cap. You can only go 30 miles per hour. Like,
That's a good
because
point.
I've never heard anyone that, like, I haven't talked to anyone at like the market we're going after where they say, I use all of NetSuite. Like, I use all of it. Like, I use the finance, I use forecasting. Like,
You're sold on all of it, but you end up using 10% of it.
yeah, you're sold on all of it, but like you use a certain portion of it. And so then you're kind of sitting there twiddling your thumbs of like, dang, we're paying for all this stuff that we don't use.
Well, and you can use the rest, but the problem is, like, you have to customize it to your flow, and they're like, here's a quote for that. Another $75,000. We'll do that.
That's kind
You're
of
just like, what? I already spent like $150K.
It makes me realize you have two choices. From an operator's perspective, you see all the competitors we went through. Every single one has been bought, sold in kind of this stale state. There's very little innovation happening. And then you have NetSuite, which has been around for 30 years and it'll be around for another 30 years. And it's like, hey, this seems like, this is the company I can bet will be around for another 10. You wouldn't, Skubana won't be around for another 10.
Yeah.
Sin 7 probably won't be around for another 10. So do you go with the safe bet of like, hey, this will be around forever? Or do you sacrifice and take a risk on, do I do the pain and go with a brand new company?
Yeah, it makes sense. Now, enter Luminous, the last company. So obviously, we're biased.
go Luminous.
But Luminous, honestly, like, as we discussed this topic to death, a big part, like, there's two massive parts of this discussion of what is a good system. And one of those big parts is, what is their offering with implementation and ongoing support? That's massive. And I think right off the bat, that's where we beat most of our competitors. Is we're not trying to blow up like Sin 7. We're like, you're not customer one of 1,000 that have come in just this month, and like, you're not going to get any support or hand holding. That's just not. we're trying to nail every single client experience and scale with them. So our customer support is going to be way superior. Like I can confidently say, if you try Sin7 or Fulfill or Katana, yeah, well, they're cool systems and some of their flows are pretty good. I can confidently tell you, you're going to have a horrible experience if you have any level of complication in your implementation. If there's some complexity in your implementation process, you're going to hate your life and you're going to wish somebody could be like you could actually call somebody with e-commerce experience that could help you set up your backend flow. I think that's the biggest spot where we come in. And then on the tech side,
I mean, from a tech perspective, I think what we've learned is we focus on the operator first. So what's going to work? What's going to be the easiest to start using? I think we're trying to address the problem from a very empathetic point of view of here are the workflows, here are the things an operator has to accomplish, and how do we minimize the steps, or how do we get out of the way and let them implement as they need? And that's the perspective and the philosophy we take when we build products here.
and then specifically with a theme in this podcast has been like the modern e-commerce troubles, like starting specialty wholesale arm of your business, selling to Target and Walmart. So, needing EDI capabilities, a specific type of forecasting and replenishment for multiple warehouses, FBA, your own warehouse, a 3PL. We're building our system is architected around those. Just the simple fact that we started building in 2019 puts us we're just in a much better spot than any of these 2010 companies were. And it's just the benefit of being in the present. Why are we not going to get acquired in the next 2 years?
I think this is actually a really good discussion we should have is like, how do you beat that concern of how do we not become stale?
Stagnation after getting acquired.
Yeah.
It's a major problem because you can see, we've talked about, a lot of these people were founded during the same time, acquired, and then they kind of stagnate post.
What's the phrase? We're not here for a good time. We're here for a long time. We should just have that on the website, like Luminous. We're not here for a good time. We're here for a long time.
Is that Big Sean?
Because I mean, that concern comes up all the time. And what I've told people is like, I'm not in this for a quick exit. Like, I want to become the go-to system. I think our entire team kind of has that same. I don't want to just get to 5 million in ARR and then get acquired for, 8-9 figures, and then I want to actually stay around.
That's it. Just becomes a matter of like, you have to just trust me on this. It's like, trust me, just trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro. I'm not going to take a $10 million payout.
So I wonder.
We might take $100 million payout.
Yeah, but if it's 9 figures, then
I think part of it has to come down to the other philosophy that we have, and we want to be this open platform. Buying into Luminous doesn't mean you're stuck for forever. While we will offer a broad set of tools and you can use all of Luminous for everything, we also let you plug in specialty products. If you want a point solution for fulfillment or a point solution for your OMS, we're not going to require you to use us. And we're going to guarantee that integration, like ShipStation is a great example. Keep using ShipStation. You don't have to replace it. You don't have to get rid of it. You like it, keep using it. And we're just going to promise we're going to plug in the best. And so if it comes one day where, hey, Luminous is no more, hopefully that means you can switch to a point solution you enjoy. If you feel like our forecasting just becomes stale, it doesn't really matter because our API is open, our data is freely accessible, and you have that capability to switch to a different forecasting tool if you'd like.
It's the platform approach where, yes, Luminous is building our own ecosystem of tools.
Mm-hmm.
Like we will have the Luminous ecosystem similar to like a Zoho, but we're taking the platform approach. We're going to make it very easy. For example, like, is Zoho inventory really that easy to plug into QuickBooks?
Right.
I've seen people do it, but not necessarily.
Not easily.
And that's the approach that Luminous is going to take. Is like we will have our own OMS, but we'll make it super easy to plug into ShipStation or any other tool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think that's the promise. It's not, hey, we trust me, bro, we won't sell. Like, but it's, hey, ethically, philosophically, we're an open platform, and we're going to try to be that as much as possible. That platform will always exist.
Different from open source like Odoo.
Right?
though.
Yeah, open source is the wrong way. I think
Open source is like, yeah, just get a cheap developer and have him jerry rig your tools to ShipStation and this and that. Like, no. Like we mean we're going to stay at the forefront of what is hip in e-commerce and make sure we can connect to the hip tech so that you can run your business. So that you don't have to go to NetSuite as a $10 million company.
Yeah. I'd also hope to like implementation, onboarding, and client success remains similar. Because right now, my philosophy, like client success and our philosophy at Luminous is like, hey, we're going to get this where it's working for you. Like, we're going to get there. It's never one of those things where it's like, oh, like, we're not a good fit for these guys. Like, so we're just going to give up kind of thing. You know, like very frequently we're in the weeds with operators, figuring out flows, figuring out SOPs, what's going to work best in the new system. Because I also like that we're upfront with people where it's like, hey, implementing a new system, it takes some work. Like it takes some collaboration, and we're here to help.
Yeah.
So I hope that through the years it remains the same.
Okay, cool.
Go team.
All right.